Night Haulers. Two Texas trucker horror stories. The bloody fingerprints were still wet when the Stephenville yard supervisor found them. 5 marks, carved so deep into Caleb Harker's passenger side mirror that they'd scraped through chrome down to bare metal. Each one the width of a human fingernail, if human fingernails bent at 3 joints and left residue that smelled like week-old roadkill baking in the Texas sun. Before we begin, I want to thank every soul that keeps returning to listen. You've turned whispers into echoes. If you haven't already, subscribe and stay close, because what you're about to hear is one story you won't forget. The security footage showed nothing, just Caleb's truck swerving across Highway 281 at 2 in the morning, fighting something the cameras couldn't see. But those marks were real. The supervisor touched one, and his finger came away, red and sticky. 3 weeks later, when Rebecca Dalton drove away from a snowbound house near Spur Ridge with claw marks gouged into every wall, she made one phone call before her hands stopped shaking enough to grip the wheel. She called Caleb because truckers talk, and some roads remember everything. Caleb Harker's fever had started somewhere between Waco and Brownwood, a low burn behind his eyes that made the highway shimmer like water. By the time he crossed into Hamilton County on Thanksgiving night, his shirt was soaked through, and his hands left damp prints on the steering wheel. 20 years hauling freight across Texas. 20 years of knowing which routes paid best, which way stations to avoid, which truck stops had the cleanest showers. The rhythm of 18 wheels on asphalt was prayer. It was meditation. It was the only thing that made sense after his ex-wife's lawyer had carved up his bank account and left him working double shifts just to keep his head above water. One more run, he muttered, squinting at the road. Just one more. The rest stop appeared at mile marker 127 like something conjured from heat sickness. 2 flickering street lights casting yellow pools across cracked concrete. Dead man's pull-off, the old-timers called it. Nobody stopped there. Nobody could say exactly why. Just one of those places where the air sat wrong and the shadows were too thick. Caleb's bladder screamed. His head pounded. The next stop was 40 miles out. He pulled in. The engine's rumble died, leaving silence so complete it felt like someone had stuffed his ears with cotton. No crickets, no wind, just the tick-tick-tick of cooling metal and his own ragged breathing. The smell hit him when he opened the door, thick and sweet and rotten, like meat forgotten in a dumpster during August. He gagged, yanking his collar over his nose. That's when he saw her. A woman stood beneath the far streetlight, barefoot, hospital gown hanging strange and stiff, like it had been starched with something other than water. Dust covered her legs to the knees. Her hair fell in tangled sheets, hiding her face. Her head tilted, listening. "Ma'am," Caleb's voice cracked. The fever made everything feel disconnected, dreamlike. "You need help?" She didn't move, just stood there with her head cocked at that unnatural angle, like a dog hearing frequencies humans couldn't detect. Caleb took a step forward. His boots felt heavy. The air felt heavier. "Ma'am, are you?" Her head snapped upright, not like a person straightening their neck, like a puppet jerked by invisible strings. Too fast. Wrong. She lifted her face. Caleb's bladder released. Warm piss ran down his leg, but he didn't notice because every cell in his body was screaming, That's not a face. Skin. Just skin stretched over something with wrong geometry underneath. Too many angles. Cheekbones jutting like broken furniture trying to punch through canvas. The eyes were holes. Not empty sockets, but holes. Like someone had cut circles in a mask and forgotten what goes behind them. The mouth hung open, too wide. Jaw unhinged. No sound came out. Just a wet, rattling hiss that Caleb felt inside his skull like fingers scraping bone. She moved. Not walked. Moved. Legs bent backwards at the knees. Body scuttling forward in a horrible crab walk. Closing 30 yards in seconds. Caleb ran. Boots slipping on gravel. Hands grabbing his door handle. Yanking. Keys. Dropped. Clattered to the floor. That wet hissing getting closer. The rotten smell intensifying until he could taste it. Keys found. Engine roaring. Something slammed into the passenger door. The entire cab rocked. Caleb's head cracked against the window. Stars burst across his vision. When they cleared, he saw a hand pressed against the passenger glass. Except hands don't have 3 joints per finger. Don't bend like that. Don't have nails like black talons or skin gray and slick like something pulled from a lake. The passenger door flew open. The thing pulled itself inside with horrifying efficiency, limbs folding and unfolding at impossible angles. The hospital gown wasn't fabric. It was skin, flayed and hanging loose like a butcher's apron. That hissing filled the cab, so loud Caleb thought his eardrums would burst. He slammed the gas. The truck lurched forward, tires screaming. The creature slid backward, but caught the door frame with those wrongly jointed fingers and held on. It face, not a face, just horror wearing skin, pressed against the opening, jaw working soundlessly, empty eye holes fixed on Caleb. He swerved hard. Right. Momentum threw it sideways, but it clung like a spider, nails scraping metal, that wet hiss turning into something almost like words, syllables from a language older than human tongues. 70 miles per hour. 80. 90. Other trucks flashed past. Caleb didn't care. Fever burning through him, sweat pouring, that thing clinging to his passenger side, pulling itself inch by inch back toward the cab. A talon scraped his shoulder, drew blood. The pain was bright and sharp and real. And then lights. The Stephenville distribution yard blazed ahead like a fortress. Caleb aimed for it, doing 70 through the entrance. Workers scattered. Air horns blared. The thing looked at the lights. For the first time, it made a real sound. A shriek like tearing metal, high and sharp and full of rage. Then it let go. Caleb saw it tumble in his mirror, that impossible body contorting as it rolled. By the time he locked the brakes, sending the trailer into a jackknife that nearly tipped the whole rig, the creature had vanished into darkness beyond the fence. Men surrounded his truck, shouting, asking questions he couldn't answer. He just sat there, shaking, staring at his passenger door hanging open like a broken jaw. The yard supervisor made him wait until morning to review the footage. The grainy video showed Caleb's truck swerving wildly across Highway 281. No other vehicles, nothing chasing him, just a man fighting invisible demons. Hallucination, the supervisor said. Fever does that. You need a doctor. Caleb nodded, didn't argue. But when they walked back to his truck, they both stopped. The passenger side mirror caught the morning light. 5 deep gouges ran through the chrome, carved with such force they'd scraped to bare metal. Each marked the width of a fingernail. Each curved slightly inward, like claws dragging as they fell. The supervisor touched one. His finger came away red. That wasn't there yesterday. Caleb looked toward the empty highway. Somewhere out there, that thing was waiting for another driver, desperate enough to stop where they shouldn't. No, he said quietly. It wasn't. 3 weeks later, Rebecca Dalton got the call. She'd known Mason Ward for 15 years, trained together, ran routes together, trusted him with her life on icy mountain passes and through blinding dust storms. When he'd retired early, after something happened on a New Mexico run, she'd respected his silence. When he moved to his grandparents' abandoned homestead near Spur Ridge and stopped returning calls, she'd worried. When he finally called, asking her to visit, his voice thin and tired, she said yes, without hesitation. She arrived on a Thursday afternoon in early December. The house sat alone at the end of 3 miles of dirt road, a Victorian skeleton with paint peeling like sunburned skin. Every first-floor window had been nailed shut from inside, boards crossing glass in X patterns. The temperature had dropped 20 degrees since she left the highway. Her breath fogged white. Mason appeared in the doorway. Rex almost didn't recognize him. 30 pounds, gone. Face like wax paper over skull. Eyes sunk so deep they looked like they were trying to retreat into his head. Rex. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Thanks for coming. She grabbed her duffel. You look like hell, Mace. Yeah. He glanced over his shoulder into the dark hallway behind him. Quick, nervous. Been sleeping bad. Inside, the cold was worse than outside. Rex's breath still fogged. A space heater hummed uselessly in the corner. The rooms were empty, except for necessities. Living room, 1 chair. Kitchen, card table, 2 folding chairs. No TV, no books. Just walls and silence, but not quite empty. Claw marks scored the hallway walls. Thin ones near the ceiling at first, like something small, dragging itself along. But as Rex followed Mason deeper into the house, the marks grew, deeper, wider, running parallel in sets of 5, gouged through wallpaper into plaster. Raccoons, Mason said without turning. Place was abandoned for years. Raccoons didn't leave marks that size. Rex had grown up on a ranch. She knew animal damage. These weren't animal. Her room was upstairs. Single mattress on the floor. 1 lamp. Window. Nailed shut. I know it's rough, Mason said from the doorway. He wouldn't enter, just stood at the threshold. I'm working on it. Just slow going. It's fine. Rex dropped her duffel. Mace, you okay? Really? He opened his mouth, closed it. His eyes flicked to the corner behind her, quick, involuntary, then back. I'm glad you're here, he said quietly. Then he left, pulling the door closed. Rex turned to look at the corner. Nothing there. Just walls, meeting at 90 degrees. Shadows, where lamplight didn't reach. She told herself that was all it was. That night, lying on the mattress fully clothed, because the cold wouldn't quit, she heard something moving in the walls. Not pipes, not rats, something heavier, something moving with purpose, traveling from one end of the house to the other in slow, deliberate steps. The sound would stop for long minutes, then resume, thump, 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 like something testing the structure, learning it. At 2 a.m., the thumping stopped. Scratching started beneath her bed. Rex froze. Every instinct screamed to look, to lean over the mattress edge and check, but something older than instinct kept her perfectly still. The scratching continued. Slow, methodical. Nails on wood. Then breathing. deep and wet, like lungs, full of fluid struggling to pull air. Rex's hand found her phone. She turned on the flashlight, aimed it at the floor. Nothing. The scratching stopped. The breathing stopped. But in the corner, that same corner Mason had glanced at, something moved in the shadows. Just a ripple. A suggestion of verticality where there should only be walls. Then Mason's voice from the doorway, barely a whisper. Don't speak to it. Don't acknowledge it. It listens. Rex snapped her head around. Mason stood silhouetted against hallway darkness. She hadn't heard the door open. What the hell is going on? Mason's face was slack, empty. It's been here longer than the house, longer than the land. This is its place. We're just visiting. Mason, don't feed it attention. Don't look directly at it. Don't speak to it. His voice was flat, rehearsed. If you do, it knows you. If it knows you, it keeps you. He stepped back and closed the door. Rex didn't sleep. She sat with her back against the wall until sunrise, watching that corner. The pattern repeated for 3 nights. 2 a.m., scratching beneath her bed. 2:15, a door at the hallway's end creaking open. 2:30, footsteps, heavy, dragging, moving from that door toward her room, stopping outside her threshold. 3 a.m., a silhouette in the gap beneath her door, tall, too tall, standing perfectly still for nearly an hour. Mason stopped talking. He sat at the kitchen table for entire days, head bowed, lips moving in constant whispered conversation with something Rex couldn't see. On the 4th night, a snowstorm buried the dirt road. Rex's truck was stuck. The highway, impassable. She was trapped. That night at 2 a.m., her door opened. Mason stood at the threshold, but his eyes had rolled back white. His mouth moved, but the voice was wrong, too deep, multitonal, like 3 people speaking from different distances. It wants a new driver. Behind him, something unfolded from the hallway shadows. Tall, skeletal, skin stretched translucent, over bones sharpened to points. Torso too long, ribs visible like bars in a cage. The head was vaguely human, but wrong. Jaw hanging loose, eye sockets empty and vast, teeth filed to needles. 7 feet tall, hunched beneath the ceiling, limbs bent at joints that shouldn't exist. Looking at her. Rex grabbed her boots. Her keys. Just moved. Mason's hand shot out, grabbed her wrist. His grip was ice cold and impossibly strong. It chose you. It's tired of me. It wants someone who still drives, someone who travels. It wants to ride. The creature took a step forward. Its foot, too long, toes splayed like fingers, scraped the floor like nails on slate. Rex punched Mason in the throat. He dropped, gagging. She vaulted over him, hit the stairs at full sprint, caught the railing before she fell. Behind her, that thing moved, not walking, but flowing, like liquid shadow given form. The front door was nailed shut. Rex threw her shoulder into it. Once, twice. Wood splintered. Cold hit her face like a wall. She ran through knee-deep snow, lungs burning, toward her truck. Keys slipped in frozen fingers. Dropped, scrambled in snow. Found them. Engine roared to life. She threw it in reverse, wheels spinning, snow spraying. In the rearview mirror, Mason stood on the porch. But he wasn't alone. The creature stood behind him, one skeletal hand resting on his shoulder. Its fingers were too long, each joint visible through papery skin. It raised its other hand and tapped the window. Tap, tap, tap. Rhythmic, purposeful, goodbye. Rex floored it. Didn't stop until she hit the highway. Didn't stop until she reached a truck stop with lights and people and noise. Rex tried calling Mason for 3 weeks. No answer. The sheriff did a welfare check. Found the house empty. No body. No signs of struggle. Just Mason's truck in the driveway and claw marks in every room. Some fresh, some old, all leading to the upstairs bedroom where Rex had stayed. She knew she should let it go. Should forget. Should keep driving and never think about Spur Ridge again. But she couldn't shake the feeling that it was still watching, still waiting. That's when she found Caleb's number. Another trucker. Another story. Another thing that shouldn't exist, but did. She called him from a rest stop outside Abilene, hands still shaking when she talked about the creature, about Mason, about the tapping on the window. Caleb listened without interrupting. When she finished, there was a long silence. Then, what mile marker was that house at? Why? Because I think I know what you saw, and I think I know where it came from. Rex's blood went cold. What do you mean? There's a map, Caleb said quietly. Old trucker route map from the 50s. Shows rest stops that don't exist anymore. Dead zones. Places where drivers went missing. He paused. Every single one is on a route that passes through Spur Ridge. Caleb, what are you saying? I'm saying that thing you saw isn't staying at that house. It's moving, using the roads, following truckers. His voice dropped to barely a whisper, and I think it's spreading. Rex looked out at the highway stretching into darkness, at the endless stream of trucks rolling past, drivers who didn't know what waited in the empty places between towns. How many? She asked. I don't know, but I'm hearing stories, more every week. Drivers seeing things, stopping at places that feel wrong, finding marks on their trucks they can't explain. Somewhere in the distance, an 18-wheeler pulled into the rest stop. The driver climbed down, stretched, looked around with that particular exhaustion only long-haul truckers know. Then he walked toward the bathroom, past the far edge of the parking lot, where a tall silhouette stood in the shadows, perfectly still, watching. Rex saw it. Caleb was still talking, but she couldn't hear him anymore because the thing turned its head, looked directly at her, and smiled, with a mouth that split its face from ear to ear. Her phone slipped from her hand. The trucker disappeared into the bathroom. When he came back out, 3 minutes later, the silhouette was gone. But there, on his passenger side mirror, catching the sodium lights just right. 5 fresh scratches, carved deep into chrome, still wet.